This is Top Accolade, a global news update. I am Soibifa Jackridge. The Bank of Japan (BOJ) ended 8 years of negative interest rates and other remnants of its unorthodox policy on Tuesday, making a historic shift away from trying to reflate growth with decades of massive monetary stimulus. While the move was Japan's first interest rate hike in 17 years, it still kept rates stuck around zero as a fragile economic recovery will force the central bank to go slow on any further rise in borrowing costs, analysts say. The shift makes Japan the last central bank to exist negative rates and end an era in which policymakers around the world sought to prop up growth through cheap money and unconventional monetary tools. In a widely expected decision, the BOJ dished a policy put in place since 2016 that applied a 0.1% change on some excess reserves financial institution packed with the central bank. The BOJ sets the overnight call rate as its new policy rate and decided to guide it in a range of 0 to 0.1%, partly by paying 0.1% interest to deposits at the central bank. The BOJ today took its first tentative step towards policy normalization, said Frederick Neumann, chief Asia economist at HSBC in Hong Kong. Fund manager Fidelity International (FIL) is planning to lay off 20 people at its main China unit, two sources familiar with the matter said. A reduction that coincides with a downturn in China's markets, and as the firm cuts staff worldwide. The cut at FIL's wholly owned China fund unit, which currently employs 120 staff, is equivalent to around 16% of its total headcount, according to the sources, who declined to be named as they were not authorized to speak to media. The sources did not disclose the roles or employees being laid off. The firm, which manages $776 billion of client assets, kicked off a broader cost reduction program globally earlier this month, which is expected to save around $125 million in 2024 and make 9% of its workforce redundant. Asked about the China's unit, a spokesperson for the London-based fund house said in a review of previously reported global role reductions is ongoing across business lines and geographies, and no decision has been made about its China business. The downsizing in China by FIL underscores challenges global asset managers face in navigating uncertainties in the world's second-largest economy, where stock market rout and a deepening debt crisis in the property sector and local government have battled investor confidence. China's stock benchmark fell by almost 9% over the last 12 months and a 5-year low last month. Amid this difficult market condition, Morgan Stanley laid off about 9% of staff at its asset management unit in China in December. The number of marriages in South Korea rose in 2023 for the first time in more than a decade, lifted by pent-up demand from couples delaying nuptials during the pandemic. But the data did not point to a sustained rebound in a rapidly aging society. The slight rise in marriages last year comes after South Korea's fertility rate, already the world's lowest, continued its dramatic decline in 2023, as women concerned about career advancement and the cost of raising children delayed childbirth or decided to not have babies. A total of 193,657 couples got married last year, up 1.0% from 191,690 a year earlier, and the first increase since 2011. Statistics Korea data showed on Tuesday that compares with a 0.4% drop in 2022 when South Korea started to ease restrictions on social gatherings put in place during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Cubs had seen the number of marriages slide 9.8% in 2021 and 10.7% in 2020. The 2023 figure, however, remained well below the 239,159 marriages seen in 2019 and compares with an annual figure of more than 320,000 recorded 10 years earlier. A government official said that couples delaying nuptials was a factor contributing to more marriages in the second half of 2022 and the first half of 2023. The 2023 increase was also well below the jump in neighboring China, where marriages rose 12.4% last year as more couples tied the knots after delays due to the pandemic. The proportion of U.S. abortions administered by medication rose to more than 60% in 2023, following a dramatic decline in surgical abortion access after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, a report said on Tuesday. The Supreme Court's 2022 decision to end abortion rights allowed more than a dozen states to ban abortion, with limited exceptions, and close clinics, restriction access to surgical abortion procedures that in turn led to a growing reliance on a two-pill regimen to terminate pregnancies. With U.S. abortions administered by pill increasing 10% since 2020, according to the Guttmacher Institute, an abortion rights advocacy group. The institute's reports published every 3 years and based on data collected from U.S. abortion providers. The survey found over 1 million total abortions were provided through the U.S. healthcare system in 2023, the first time that the number exceeded a million since 2012. The U.S. Supreme Court is scheduled to hear oral arguments on March 26th, dealing with a bid by President Joe Biden's administration to preserve broad access to mifepristone, one part of the two-pill regimen that the Food and Drug Administration (FDA) approved in 2000 for terminating early pregnancies. President Joe Biden travels to Nevada and Arizona on Tuesday to promote his affordable housing proposals and pitch his case for re-election in two political swing states that could prove critical to his bid to stay in the White House. The Democratic president has been making stops in a host of battleground states since his State of the Union address earlier this month that criticized the Republican opponents, former President Donald Trump, and laid out ideas he hopes to implement if given a second term. With worries about high rent and mortgage interest rates contributing to voters' sour view about the economy, Biden will tout his administration's latest proposal to make housing more affordable. Trump has lambasted Biden for his economic policies and for presiding over inflation in multiple sectors of the economy that has stung voters worldwide. Biden, Brainard said, would call on Congress to support investments to lower housing costs. Biden's plan, which would require congressional passage, includes a $10,000 mortgage relief tax credit for first-time home buyers and $10,000 tax credit for people selling starter homes in an effort to free up housing inventory at the lower end of the market. His plan also called for tax credits to build more housing units, efforts to fight rent gouging by corporate landlords, and an expansion of a low-income housing tax credit program. According to the White House, Congress is unlikely to pass a major legislation in an election year, but the president's decision of the topic reflects his administration's awareness of the impact it could have on his re-election hopes. That is the size of top accolade global news updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Tuesday.